Hello and welcome to MarketOpen Direct Connect, where companies and investors get right to the point of the news that matters, what it means, and how it impacts your investment. I'm your host, Stuart Walters, and we're joined here today by Alex Hanley, the CEO of Lithium Universe, ASX code LU7. Lithium Universe have been very open and clear about the company's strategy upon listing and have an extremely successful team driving operations. Thank you to those who have already submitted questions for Alex, who is participating in a straight Q&A today. If you do have any questions, you can submit them through the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. It's now time to introduce our guest. Alex, welcome to Direct Connect, all the way from France, I believe.
Yeah, g'day, Stewie. Thanks for having me, mate.
What's the purpose of this trip?
Mate, it's been multifaceted. So we've obviously had the week in China, which we provided an update to the market on a couple of weeks ago. Obviously there was a roadshow through Germany, Luxembourg, and Switzerland, and there was some government engagement in Washington recently. So, we're now I'm over in France and England talking to a few bigger institutional funds and some OEMs, and then we'll be talking back. We'll be going back to New York next week for further engagement with some of the main parties in the US. So, mate, it's been a busy couple of weeks, and it's I've been learning how to live out of a suitcase, mate.
We've had some great questions come in over the last couple of days, so we'll jump straight in. With all the experience around you, what's it like for you as the CEO of Lithium Universe?
Yeah, mate, it's obviously it's a big journey, right? What I have around me is a very experienced team, is what you probably alluded to, and between Iggy Tan, Pat Scullen, Jingwan, and I could go on to Terry Stark and Roger and John Loxton. There's a lot of experience in the room and in the tent of people that have done it before. A lot of people do talk about building projects in the small end of town, in the small end of the market, but not many have actually done it. So I think that's a very important thing for me, is having that complete exposure to all of these guys who have built projects, successful and still operating projects in the market today. So for me, mate, I'm obviously marinating in it. I'm absorbing everything I can from these guys, and really enjoying everything at the moment. We've got a very unique strategy, a good team, and a very sound jurisdiction. So we're ticking all the boxes at the moment, and essentially, Stu, the board sets the strategy, and the CEO executes, and that's sort of how we're operating here at LU7.
And Iggy's got a few hats on, one being Alltech batteries, which is completely different, but essentially the same, being around lithium. Can this get confusing for the market?
Mate, it's not an uncommon question, obviously. And I was actually on a panel in Singapore a couple of months ago, and this question did come up to about Iggy's involvement in Alltech. And my response, first but first people think it's a competitive business. My response generally is that we need all of these complementary technologies in order to affect this energy transition. There was a PhD out of UK, Simon Michaud, who did a very good bottom-up estimate of what it actually is going to take for this transition to take place, and his estimate, which accounted for all transitions for all different energy systems across the whole scope of what we do right now in today's industry, both privately, commercially. And, what he's sort of estimating is that in order to affect this transition, we're going to need to actually bring on more power sources, coal-fired power sources, to actually affect this out. So my response generally is that, we're going to need sodium-ion batteries, we're going to need lithium-ion batteries, we're going to need LFPs, and we're going to need new technologies that come online. It's not going to be one sole technology that's going to win the day. We're going to need different technologies for different use cases.
Now, if we walk through the company, I'm sorry, mate. If we walk through the company as it is a new concept or business strategy, because I don't think we've seen this on the ASX yet. So let's talk about the gap.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, so the gap. I think it's a pretty unique strategy. It's quite a simple strategy. Obviously, a supply and demand thesis more than anything. What we've seen, obviously, Australia has been the dominant player in the spodumene or hard rock spodumene industry for the last decade or more. And what we've seen now is a shift away from the Western Australian dominance. And really, what we've seen in the last maybe 3 to 4, maybe 5 years is new discoveries being made in what we call the Atlantic corridor. So, obviously Zimbabwe, South Africa, but also West Africa, with Mali and Ghana, but also in Brazil, in the Ichinga region, and most importantly for us is in Canada, right? So we're seeing huge discoveries being made within this Atlantic region, and a huge supply side coming online. Now,
I assume, sorry, keep going.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say this huge supply side, we'll need somewhere for the conversion to take place, right? Now, all the conversion currently happens in China. About 95% of the world's conversion happens in China. And then, that's the supply side. Then the demand side, we see very strong demand in North America with what the US Department of Energy estimates at around 1,000 gigawatts, which equates to 850,000 ton per annum of lithium chemicals, which, if you're building a 20,000 ton per annum plant, that's over 40 new refineries, right, that are required. If you're focusing just on hard rock spodumene. So, we've got this huge supply side, this huge demand in North America. So really it was a no-brainer to position the company and put position the company with a strategy to put a refinery right in the middle of this, right in that big lithium gap in North America.
There's a question come in around the government support. Can we assume that that's strong?
Mate, so, not only Canada and Quebec itself as a province, but it was quite interesting in Washington 2 weeks ago at the Critical Minerals Summit. Obviously, all the policymakers are there in Washington, and we had speakers from the US Department of Energy, US Department of Defense. This is now considered a matter of national security for the US, right? Securing these metals, and secondly, building out the supply chain in North America, where with it, sort of severing that reliance on Asia and China to some degree. So, there's very strong support at the moment. A lot of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act that was brought in now, that'd be probably 3 years ago, was targeting a lot of this, onshoring or friendshoring of the supply chain. And talking a little bit more locally in Quebec, we've had incredible engagement with the provincial government sector, right? They are very proactive. They understand what they want and who can give it to them very well. What we've seen is nothing short of the gold standard in terms of government engagement from Quebec. So from our perspective, there's if someone says that there's poor government support in Quebec or Canada, I'll be the first to put my hand up and say something about it. That's for sure.
Any financial support?
Sorry. Yes. What we've seen is quite interesting in the last 12 months. Obviously, there's been a huge announcements in Quebec itself. We've seen Northvolt, the Nordic company coming in and building a battery plant in Saint Basile, just outside Montreal. That was a $7.5 billion capex for that project. Now, what we've seen is that the government, both provincially and federally, come in for about near on 50% cumulatively for that capex item. So that's a huge leg up for Northvolt. That may be debt, equity, forgivable loan, you name it. We're not really sure on that detail, but similarly, we've seen the same thing at Bécancour, right, where we've set up shop with Ford SK Pro, GM POSCO, getting considerable support from the government, both provincially and federally. So financial support definitely there, Stewie.
If we drill down on the company's strategy, what feedstock options are being considered for the refinery, and what factors influence their selection?
Well, obviously, we're focused on spodumene as a first point of call, Stuart, focusing on that Atlantic corridor. Feedstock options are being evaluated all the way throughout that Atlantic region. we get this question a lot. Obviously, this is a precursor to the next stage of our financing. Something that we're working on at the moment, something that I'm working on as we speak. But even talking to advisors and people that are in the industry and understand the critical minerals gap that we currently have on hand, some are saying just build it and they will come. Right now, that's not really going to be how we're going to operate. We're obviously going to line something up beforehand that may look like a 3-year, 5-year run of mine. Spodumene concentrate offtake. And looking obviously for an existing producer, where we'll be working with a number of juniors around James Bay that are going to be developing their projects, but we understand that those projects are probably going to be they're going to be potentially delayed, protracted. Whereas we're sort of looking at getting this Bécancour facility up, within the next 4 years, Stuart. So what we need to do is line up that sort of intermediate step. And that may be coming seaborne by the Atlantic region. That's the reality for us.
We've had one come in around an offtake. What strategies are in place for securing reliable offtake agreements for refined products?
I don't think we're going to have a problem, to be frank. What we have is quite unique, battery grade lithium carbonate. With low sodium values. So, from an offtake perspective, I don't think we're going to have trouble finding a buyer, whether that be in North America or Europe. But what we're going to do is go looking for a partner, and I think that's some more sort of prudent strategy for us. Right, we're going to be looking for a partner that we can have a long-term agreement with, both for an offtake, but also for access to potential new feedstocks as well, because what we're finding, Stuart, is that we're not just competing with other refineries around the world. We're now competing for feedstock with a number of different OEMs as well. So we've seen recently Mitsubishi go all the way upstream and sign an MOU with Frontier in Ontario. And we've seen the same thing with Ford and in Liontown. So now there's OEMs going all the way upstream to the lithium mine, and that's where we see the biggest value add for us is obviously teaming up with the downstream buyer, providing the midstream solution. Midstream is what they call it in the US, and then essentially go searching or get security over that upstream resource, mate.
You touched earlier on some financing. What's the proposed financing structure for the refinery project, and how will it be secured?
Well, obviously, one thing that's a big plus for us is obviously the huge government support that I alluded to earlier. Now, if although that's not in the bag yet, what I will say is that the government are very proactive. They understand what we do and the hole we do fill. So we'll be progressing discussions over the next few weeks when we're back in Montreal and Ottawa to both engage with both the Quebec and the Canadian investment arms. So that's one facet. The other element is obviously what I just alluded to. So we'll be talking to different OEMs. We'll be looking for buy-in from these OEMs to come on board with us. And this may look like the first project may be a toll milling type scenario for them, where they get security over the lithium carbonate and we get security over the operation itself. So that may be another opportunity where we can look for financing from an OEM partner. But we're also, we're at a stage now where we can actually, once we have those feedstocks and those offtakes lined up, we can actually go to a lot of the different financial institutions for some debt structuring. So, and that'll be the huge focus for us is having a large debt component to the capex when we do need to raise that money. But we're doing all the work at the moment, Stewie, to make sure that's in the pipeline. Everyone's warmed up, you could say, of what we're doing and what's coming. And then once we finish our DFS in the coming months, we'll be able to sort of pull the trigger on that pretty soon.
And now back in core, you're 2 hours from both Montreal and Quebec City. What can you tell us about the site and what are the dot points?
Yeah, you're right. No, Bécancour is home to well, I think they're calling it Battery Valley now in Quebec. They've put a lot of onus on building this up to be focused on the energy transition. We've seen, obviously, as I mentioned before, GM POSCO, Ford Escape Pro. We've got Nemaska Lithium just across the road. We've also got Nouveau Monde Graphite, which have been in the news recently, and then a few legacy operations as well within the site. It's an existing industrial site. That's the most important thing, right? What we do have is there's a very small permitting timeline in comparison to other areas. What we have is we've got access to very cost-effective green energy through the hydro system in Quebec. We've got rail access, so we can bring spodumene in by rail from James Bay via Matagami. But we've also got, most importantly for us, port access. The company's block of land in Lot 22 is only about 2 or 2.5 kilometres away from the port. So that gives us the ability to bring in spodumene on bulk via the St. Lawrence from the Atlantic region. So that brings a completely different facet to the I suppose the justification as to why we picked this position in particular. And what we're sort of the other sort of big benefit is all these companies that I've mentioned all have very similar residues and reagents, right? So whether it be sulfuric acid, whether it be aluminum silicate on the back end, everyone's got the same inputs and outputs that we're going to have to manage across the course of the whole event. So what it is probably going to more look like is more of a syndicated sort of approach to a lot of these external facilities. So it's got a lot of benefits, Stewie. It was a pretty easy choice for the team at LU7. We jumped on the opportunity as quick as we could.
What is the current status of permitting for the industrial site, and what can you expect there?
Yeah, as I said, it's an existing industrial site, so we're not having to go through a lot of the large protracted permitting timelines as you would for a greenfield site. What we have across the road is Nemaska Lithium. They're currently building their lithium hydroxide plant, and what that gives Lithium Universe is what you could call a second mover advantage, right? They've already gone through the permitting, and it's a very similar process. What we expect is nothing different, right? The initial indications from Hatch, our engineering consultant, is that this is not going to take any more than 12 months to really round up, and we've already started that in the background over the last couple of weeks. So there's going to be a number of both First Nation and environmental surveys that will be conducted, and then we'll complete a baseline study over those next few months.
There is actually a question that's just come in from First Nation involvement. How's the project engaging with First Nations communities and partnering with the local workforce?
Yeah, the First Nation group at Bécancour is the Wabanaki. We've engaged with them quite early. We had an initial meeting with them some weeks ago. I'll be travelling over to see one of the leaders of that nation next week in Bécancour itself. And what we're doing is engaging early, letting them know who we are, what we're doing, obviously, and looking for opportunities to involve them in either training for our team in the future, and secondly, obviously, employment opportunities, whether that be in some clearing or construction or potentially civil works as well. So there's a number of different opportunities where we're going to be working with the First Nations, and they're very receptive. They've obviously they're very experienced. They've been dealing with a lot of these different companies that I've talked about previously for the last couple of years. So they understand industry. They're very, very practical people, and all's going very well at the moment with the Wabanaki.
Alex, how does the project plan to monitor and mitigate any potential environmental risks or concerns?
Yeah, this is one thing is to note is that we talk about Jiangsu plant that we're recreating and putting into Quebec. Now, what's important to note here is that the Jiangsu plant itself was when it was built, it was actually designed to international standard, right? So all of the environmental and mechanical and civil and structural standards are implemented within that design already. So we're not bringing maybe a dirty Chinese plant into Quebec. We're bringing a international standardized plant, right? So this is going to obviously meet all the regulations, both in Quebec and Canada, very similar to what you'd expect in Australia. So we're looking at zero water emissions from the license itself or the block of land. We're looking at a few different residue disposal sites nearby, which have been used by some of our partners or peers within the region. So we don't see any huge environmental risks or concerns. As I said, it's an existing, or it's a brownfield site. And an established industrial area that understands industry and what needs to happen. So we've got no real concerns at this stage in terms of the environmental impact.
We've got 2 questions left. So if anyone does have another question, please remember you can submit your question via the tab below. Second last, Alex, this is quite a large project and will need some technical expertise. Does the company have access to skilled labour and expertise for the construction and operation of the refinery?
Yeah, quite an eloquent question. The reality is that what we're dealing with in Quebec, especially up in Val d'Or, is an old gold mining province. The gold mining in Val d'Or itself, it goes back decades, if not centuries. But what we have is a province that understands and understands mining. Number one, understands the need for this energy transition at a government level. And then what we're seeing is, the best universities in Canada are in Quebec, McGill, Polytechnic and Laval. These are some of the best universities in North America and best engineering universities. So we've engaged with some of these universities already, talked to them about what we're doing, how we can get involved to also start educating them on what the lithium industry looks like, what the different elements are, where we're coming to the party, and hopefully attract some of some of the engineers and chemists into the industry, but secondly, work on some of the more skilled technical labour as well. So it's human capital is an issue. It's an issue in Australia. It's an issue in Canada as well. So that's why we're on the front foot and talking to a lot of these universities early to make sure that if they are looking for a job in the lithium industry, that they can come knocking on our door pretty soon. So it is an issue, Stewie, but like anything, these are challenges that North America are going to have to overcome as they build out the battery supply chain. Right? It's not dissimilar to Europe, similarly doing the same thing. The lithium chemical process itself and the lithium mining or spodumene mining is new, relatively new to Canada. So these are the sort of learning curves that are going to have to happen over the next 5 years.
You probably get this one quite a bit, but why isn't anyone else doing this? It sounds like a strong business proposition, unique product, and a ready target market.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's obviously a very good business proposition. We've identified a huge gap in the market. There's a huge demand that needs to be satisfied in North America, and similarly, a huge demand for supply conversion. So it ticks all the boxes. The point of difference, I think, for the company and a lot of the feedback that we've received from different investors in Europe is that it comes down to the team and the expertise. Now, a lot of people obviously may say that we labour on the point around the Lithium Dream Team and what we have within Lithium Universe, but it's a very important facet. Now, there's two projects in one in Germany and another one in the UK that are trying to do a very similar thing. but they really don't have the track record of actually delivering something similar, right? Now, what we have on board is a team that's commissioned and operated two different plants, two different lithium carbonate plants in Australia and in China. So it's not even a similar project. The same project that we're proposing to deliver at Bécancour is exactly the same design as what Yi Jingwan and John Loxton delivered in Jiangsu. So that's from an execution risk. Having people that have done it before with the same design and commissioning sequence is very powerful. So what it comes down to is really, proven technology, Stewie, proven design, proven team, and also the ability to process different spodumene feedstocks, right? We're not tied to just one mine. We've built the flow sheet to make sure that it can accept all different types of spodumene, and that's a lot of the test work that we're currently doing at the moment, which we provided a few updates to the market on, is displaying and validating that no matter where it comes from, we can process it. So that gives us a few different points of difference, that's for sure, Stewie.
Alex, that's everything that's come in for today. Thank you for being so open and honest in your responses. We've had some great questions come in, which I'd like to thank the audience for sending in. Wish you all the best, safe travels, and we'll chat again soon.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Stewie. Appreciate your time, mate.